always using this crazy cheap microphone, but hey, it's equipment. We're talking about war, more war, and we're talking about solutions to war. And today I'm going to talk about enemies, the creation of enemies, the generation of enemies, the fabrication of enemies, the identification. You've got to find an enemy. No matter what you do, you or the government always has to put an enemy in front of the people. They have to plant it in the mind of the people to cause what? Fear or paranoia. But you know what's interesting is that President Roosevelt, FDR, said that he said, I'll quote him, "The only thing we have to fear is fear itself." And that was written, etched in stone at the monument in Washington, D.C. Many people attribute that quote or the speech to Winston Churchill, erroneously, the Prime Minister of England, Britain, Great Britain, United Kingdom. How many names do they freaking have? You know, how many multiple personalities does that imperialistic former power give itself? But anyhow, this was FDR. I was cleaning up the kitchen. It's all over there. I cleaned up the bowls, put away that stuff. All right, sorry about the interruption because I don't just have an office here. I have to share this with a bunch of other human creatures. Let me just... There's nothing visual here, so I've got to give you something better to look at. Okay. There we go. There we go. There we go. War is about finding an enemy. Very much so, because you can have a war without an enemy, and that's somebody that you're against, some other nation. So that it's important preemptively to select this enemy and to dehumanize them and to put them in front of your selected audience, which is your people that you want to preside over, that you want to rule or divide and conquer. You are going to say to, in the example of the United States, to the Americans, the people living in the country there, in the borders, in North American continent, here is your enemy, there's your enemy. So it used to be the Germans. Then after that, it became the Soviets, because after World War I and going into World War II, you had Lenin going into Stalin, and it was a Bolshevik revolution that took over white Tsarist Russia. The White Revolution failed ultimately, and you had this communist socialistic Soviet bloc created, and after World War II, they certainly became the preferred enemy. And this was what, was at the crux of the Cold War. It's the United States versus the Soviets, the two original superpowers of known history. This is after Atlantis. This is after all the other civilizations that are only very much, doubtful because we don't have proof. We are a species on a planet that doesn't have much of a memory. So I'm helping you with that, as Thoth would do. Thoth is thought. Taught, or you, yeah, taught actually comes from that. There's a linguistic connection to all this stuff. Now, after the Soviet Union collapsed, supposedly the defeat of communism and the victory of capitalism. Yeah, right. Of democracy. Somebody wrote to me. I don't know who that was, but I have hypothesis about who that person was writing to me. The so-called democracy of the world, the free world, is now fighting a new enemy, but going back to the old Soviet enemy. Now, how do you figure? And then in some days, they just change it, depending on where they want to direct your attention. But the new enemy became terrorism. So we're going to talk a little bit about what terrorism is. Terrorism is a fabricated, created thing that the CIA has manipulated with their money. It's all about the money. Because nobody's going to do that shit if it's not for the money that they get paid. You think they're going to run around and risk their ass? Well, actually, these men that do this are pretty much worthless. I would tell you right now. They all need their heads to be chopped off. These are the guys that did what they did to Gaddafi. Not that Gaddafi was such a great guy, but compare him with Bush or compare him with Obama. It's going to be hard to make a pick there. It's kind of like the lesser of two evils. Or compare him with Blair, Tony Blair. Compare him with Mussolini. These are all the same ilk. None of these people are great in any way. I would put Hitler above all of them, including Gaddafi. Now, you got to pick and choose who your heroes are and the leaders of the world and your despots and your dictators and your, American presidents. But the wars among the nations are now at such a point with the global population that any force which is going to go against government is called terrorism. So Russia has its terrorists, China has its terrorists, Britain has its terrorists, the Irish or whoever else, or the Scottish now. No one definitely call them terrorists, but they're going to become terrorists before long. The United States, of course, has its terrorists, people that bomb Boston, people that shoot up Sandy Hook, the 22-year-old virgin who, oh my goodness, 22 years is too long to wait. Could have been a false flag, could be a whole Hollywood illusion. I'm not sure, but what's definitely not an illusion is the amount of information that came out of it. If it's disinfo, if we were plastered in the TV, we can still be now, and we're analyzing it in the interweb, that Elliot Rodger was a psyop, or maybe he was real and he shot up the University of Santa Barbara. Ooh, this is a good background for us. And we have terrorists of all sorts, in every nation. So whoever goes against the society, whoever especially goes against the government, that is the enemy now. But you see, because of the Edward Snowden period that we've entered, Glenn Greenwald, his handler, or who is their handler? Is it the CIA? Is it the same handler as the WikiLeaks, Julian Assange? Well, we don't know, but we are probably being duped, because anything that gets out there, and you're not being duped by me. It's not like mystery. Everybody, be careful. This guy, he's the enemy, public enemy, number one, most wanted. He's not, because he's not being paid. He's not being the newest Osama bin Laden. He's not. He's not your enemy. Not yet. They haven't tried that yet. They haven't figured it out. It's too complicated. I'm an American. I'm embedded in the culture already. I'm embedded. Try and do that and see how much damage I'll tear you a new a-hole. Talking to them out there, those powers that be, the shadowy forces that think they Oh, I know you. I know all of you. You're going to find out pretty soon what's going on. Because they try to preemptive war, preemptive accusation of the enemy. They try, because they are the ones that worry about their power. Those that have so much to lose, they're worrying about losing their money, folks. And that's where their control is. It's in the money. My control, however, will never be in the money. I will collect up all the money and the gold at some point. You can be sure of that. Keep listening, because then you'll figure out what am I talking about? What claims am I making? What am I proclaiming? You're going to figure it out. If you know what's good for you, keep listening. But now let's shift over, because we've given a good analysis so far of enemies, so we know what that's all about. Oh, who do I have here? Did you have to? Who opened the bathroom door? You weren't supposed to see that. That's a studio door. And by the way, if you want a cookie, you're going to have to work for it. You don't just get rewarded and treated like that. Treats. What did you do? Did you do something? Come over here. Do something good and I'll give you a cookie. First of all, close the bathroom door. We don't want that as part of the movie set. I've got all these kinds of videos here. I could put on some from... This is a good one. This is all family stuff. What's on this one? So I talked about enemies, right? The next thing is to talk about power. I'm going to go over this for 1 minute. Hey, I thought you were closing the door. Close the door and come here. He got lost in the bathroom. I told him to close the door. Close the door. Just close the door. Close the door, because I don't want to look in there. Close the bathroom door. Close the door. No, the door. The door. Yeah, that's what I wanted you to do. Good. See? You can get people to do things if you delegate your authority. Hey, wait, I thought you were going to come here and sit here. I was going to feature you. You're going to be the feature guy. Come here. You want to sing a song? You want to sing a song? I'm the host of your show, the Breaking News Hour. You want to sing something? Want to say something? No? Say no, you don't want to say anything. Say no, you don't want to say anything.
No.
He's not going to be tricked by his own progenitor. All right. Here's the thing about authority and power. If you people want to wake up, because I need you as the forces behind this. I need people power. I always have. That's how I was elected as the first president of YouTube, the community, YouTubia, back in the days. And this is history. It's been written down, and people will get to know it. But trust me, when they knew about President Washington, it wasn't until after he was gone. I mean, and there was only one party. It was nonpartisan, in fact, at that point. So that's a curious thing to wrap your head around with today's bipartisan stranglehold on the American control apparatus called the government. But authority is ultimately what you end up with. We need to face that. As a world of people and civilization, you will always end up with authority. You always will. A child is born and it needs authority. Can we understand that, first of all? You can't get away from that. So by ultimately seeing that it's inevitable to have power rise to the top and have a hierarchy, a pyramid structure, you need to make your best selection. So what I'm saying is you need a benevolent, all-powerful ruler over a one-world system, a one-world organization, one-world government. And you need someone who gives the power back to the people at the bottom of the pyramid. That's the person you ought to select. So I'm all for people power.